So, what are you?
What am I?
I'm a Martian.
I'm American.
I'm African American.
A person.
What are you?
Eritrean American.
Is this about race? I am a 6'2", 170-pound man.
I am African American and Mexican. I'm African American and Native American.
It's pretty deep. I don't know. I'm just gonna go for like the really like skin deep answer. I'm gay Iger.
What are you?
An individual.
It must have been in elementary school. I remember that a lot of kids would ask me, like, what are you? And I always wished that I was just one thing, so I didn't have to kind of go into detail about my mom and my dad, and then I'm here, and I was born somewhere else. So it probably was like third grade when I realized that my background was maybe different or unique, and it took a lot of explanation.
When it comes to race, we usually ask the question, what are you? Because we view race as being part of one's identity. We generally use race as a tool for understanding or defining people similar to or different from ourselves. But what about those who can identify with more than one race?
I first realized it probably in middle school when we took those SAT prep tests, and they would have that little section where you fill out your race and you bubble in, one thing. But I would ask, do I bubble in white or Pacific Islander? And I would ask if I could bubble in both, but they would just tell me to bubble in one. And then I'd ask my teachers which ones to bubble in, and they'd always say, bubble in white because I'm white. And I'd kind of feel shafted because I wanted to fill in, the Pacific Islander side as well.
I never asked, well, what are you? Because I know how it feels to be asked that, but I just love like people being able to just be themselves and not be like a race first and then like their personality comes after. Because like if you can't really tell, then like it kind of might take some of the pressure off. I don't know, because I don't think I'm that ambiguous looking, but not with this hair, but
I think it is really individual, that there are so many things that come into exactly that discussion. Sometimes, what parent are you closer to, what family is closer, like geographically closer to you, do you grow up with? Like I know somebody her mom is Irish, her dad is Mexican, and she identifies as Mexican because she lives here and not on the East Coast. But I also think that sometimes it's what people put on you. So if you look black, then you're making it easier on everybody.
If I can get away with saying I'm just Indian, I usually will do that. If I'm meeting somebody for the first time and I feel like they're just asking me that kind of to be nice, I will say Indian and see what happens.
it was just frustrating most of the time because you think and you're like, okay, well I can change and dress and talk like they do, or I could like go the opposite and like pretend I'm white, or like and try really hard to do that, but like in the end you just realize it's not worth it. So
I would say that yes, I had some like inner conflict or like kind of negotiation, but I'm a pretty confident person, and being the oldest, I really tried to set the stage and set an example for my siblings. So even if I had kind of like some inner turmoil, I was up front and kind of to them, like I was always like, this is really cool that we have both cultures and that we have our parents come from different countries and kind of can share all of that with us. So I think that although I might have struggled with it, I never really was like honest and open with my parents or my siblings about it.
A lot of how we perceive ourselves can be influenced by images we receive from the media. So does the lack of representation affect the way a mixed person feels about his or her identity?
The same people are in power in media industries that are in power everywhere. And there are certain things that are going to look normal to them, and we're going to see a lot of that. So we have this dual eye for, on the other hand, what we know look normal, and then on the other hand, what we might see as normal. And it is a matter of power, like you said. I think that's the very sad part with commercial television especially, is that we're not giving the benefit of the doubt. I think the public, the audience, is far more accepting and interested in being challenged than we're the assumption is. So yeah.
I really think that there's way more than obviously is represented by TV, because there's none. Like, it's crazy. And when they are, it's like on wife swap, and it's like a big deal that they're this mixed family. Like, oh my God, he's black and she's white, but like they love each other and they have these beautiful kids. It's like, obviously, like, otherwise people wouldn't be doing it. Like, I mean, I can't think of a single like happy mixed family on TV, and like that's really what my family is. And so, and like I was saying, like for mixed people, I'm sure it's hard, like, to go like to an audition and be like, oh, I'm sorry, like I'm not just black, which is like, you want to put me in this family that's just like all black people, like I'm actually this too. And so you don't really have a choice, I'm sure. And so you just kind of get thrown around. And I mean, the tendency is to like put families on TV that like all look the same, because it's easier, I guess, or it's what people expect, even though like mixed families are on the rise. And I would be interested to see the numbers, but I feel like I know more mixed families than I do like not.
More and more mixed-race individuals are taking charge in how they identify themselves. Today, more than 30 organizations exist to promote a new multiracial consciousness amongst people inside and outside of the multiracial community.
I don't consider myself, Asian or white anymore. I consider myself a Haba. I only learned of that term last year, so it's really helped me like put a name to like what I feel I am, which was hard before. Like it's a mouthful to say. I'm half white, half Filipino. So me saying a Haba makes it easier for me, and I love it.
As I got older, I realized like this is really unique, and I think that my close friends and stuff, they really appreciate the different perspective that I bring.
I just love having different kinds of people in my life at all times, and being able to get advice from different kinds of people. And like the advice I get from like African aunts and uncles is completely different from like my American and like Canadian ones. And so sometimes you need both opinions, and I feel like if I only had one, I wouldn't be the person I am, and I wouldn't like think about things as critically as I do, and like kind of evaluate more than one side to everything. And so I love being mixed, and I wouldn't change it for anything.